The smell of rain danced in the early evening air as Melissa, 19-year-old African woman, warm brown skin, big brown eyes, long black braids tied in a ponytail, wearing a bright yellow and red ochre dress with bold floral patterns, closed her umbrella and stepped into the small cafe tucked beside the busy street. She was on her last break of the day, tired but determined. The past months had changed her in ways she couldn't fully explain. Gone was the carefree university girl who used to sneak out to grab ice cream with Alex after late lectures. Now, every moment was calculated, every expense carefully weighed, every smile earned through struggle. She sat by the window, her eyes focused on the city outside, lost in thought. Her phone buzzed on the table, and she glanced at it. Another message from Alex. Cold, short reply. She hadn't heard from him in weeks, not like before, and yet she still clung to the hope that the man she had once shared everything with would come back. But she wasn't foolish enough to ignore the truth that was becoming clearer each day. Her thoughts were interrupted when a voice called out to her. "Mind if I join you?" A man stood at the door, a stranger with a warm smile. He was tall with a lean build and dark, sharp features. His skin was a rich caramel tone, and his eyes held a sense of quiet strength, like someone who had seen the world but didn't let it consume him. He wore a button-up shirt and dark jeans, his sleeves rolled up to the elbows. Melissa looked up from her phone, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, but something about his presence felt comforting. "Sure," she replied, her voice still a little hesitant. The man smiled and took a seat. "I'm Malik," he said, offering his hand. "Melissa," she replied, shaking his hand lightly. "New in town?" Malik asked, his voice friendly and warm. He leaned back in his chair, observing her quietly. "No, just lost in thought," Melissa murmured, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Malik nodded, understanding. "I get that." He glanced around the cafe, then back at her. "You look like you've been through some stuff." Melissa's lips curved into a wry smile. "You have no idea." The conversation drifted. Malik talked about his move to Nairobi, his background in business, and his hopes for the future. He was charismatic, but there was something about his presence that seemed to ease the tension in Melissa's chest, even if only for a little while. As the evening wore on, they exchanged more stories. The city, their favorite spots, and the struggles they faced in life. Malik listened intently, always smiling, offering words of encouragement without making her feel like she was being pitied. "Sometimes," Malik said, "life throws us into places we never expected. But it's how we react that defines who we are." Melissa nodded, a bittersweet smile on her lips. "Maybe. I'm still trying to figure that out." Malik leaned in slightly, his eyes softer now. "Well, if you ever want to talk or just not talk, I'm around." He reached for his wallet, and before she could protest, he paid for both their drinks. As he stood to leave, he placed a card on the table. "Just in case," he said, a smile playing on his lips before he walked out of the cafe, leaving Melissa with a strange sense of relief she hadn't felt in a long time. Later that night, after putting her things away, Melissa pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. The message from Alex was still there, sitting unread. She hadn't replied. She wasn't sure what there was left to say. Instead, she scrolled back through their old texts, the photos they shared, the memories of when everything felt like it was going to work out. But now, the silence between them was deafening, and she couldn't ignore how distant Alex had become. The past few years had been filled with broken promises. Alex's promise to always come back, to never let the distance tear them apart. Yet here she was, with only echoes of a love that once felt unshakable. The love she had trusted to remain constant had slipped through her fingers like sand. She closed her eyes and leaned back against the couch, feeling the weight of the world press on her chest. Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Alex. It was a message from Malik. "If you need someone to listen, I'm here. No judgment." She stared at the words for a long time, her heart doing a strange, unsettling flip in her chest. It had been so long since someone had said anything like that to her. The following days passed, and Malik and Melissa met up a few more times. Each conversation with him brought a sense of comfort, of clarity she hadn't realized she'd been craving. Malik never rushed things. He let Melissa talk when she needed to, and listened when she didn't have the words. Slowly, his presence began to chip away at the fortress she'd built around herself, the fortress she had constructed in response to the pain she carried from Alex. One evening, Malik invited her to a small gallery opening where his business partner was showcasing local art. As they wandered through the exhibits, discussing each piece, Malik caught Melissa off guard with a question. "You still think about him, don't you?" he asked softly. Melissa paused, the question hanging in the air. She hadn't expected it, but the truth was, she did think about Alex. She still wondered if he'd ever return, if he was still out there somewhere. "I do," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "But I'm not sure he's the same person anymore." Malik's expression softened, and he gave a small nod. "Sometimes people change in ways we don't expect. But that doesn't mean you have to wait for them." As the night grew later, Melissa found herself more and more drawn to Malik's calm, steady presence. There was something about him that made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't love, not yet at least, but there was potential. The kind of potential she hadn't realized she was missing. By the time they said their goodbyes, something unspoken had shifted between them. It wasn't the beginning of something new, not yet. But for the first time in a long while, Melissa felt a spark of hope. Later that night, Melissa sat on the floor beside her crib. She closed her eyes and leaned against the wall, the memories of the day swirling in her mind. Could I let myself feel something again? She wondered. Her phone buzzed again, breaking her thoughts. She picked it up. It was a text from Alex. "Melissa, are you still there?" Her breath caught in her throat as she stared at the message. She wasn't sure what to think anymore. But in that moment, she knew the answer wouldn't be as simple as it once was.